else. I was just gonna say.
Welcome back to another episode of the Badgernotes After Dark podcast, brought to you by Tom Brady and the good folks over at Autograph. I'm your host, Dylan Graff, co-founder of Badgernotes.com. You can follow the podcast on YouTube at Badgernotes After Dark or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. I am joined with me here by, the proverbial Knights of the Round Table. I'm going to talk a little Badgers today. We got a whole lot to discuss. How we doing here, fellas?
Ready to rock.
Yeah, doing all right. It's a
Ready
Tuesday.
for a short episode tonight.
No. How are you doing?
How's
life treating you?
It's been a roller coaster of emotions. Kind of some of the things we're getting into today. Obviously, Wisconsin adds a lineman from the transfer portal. The Badgers miss on everybody that they cared about in the transfer portal on the men's basketball side. They're going to be hosting somebody on a visit this coming weekend. And then we're going to get into a 3-round draft, in honor of the NFL draft, and pick 3 players that we would, in a perfect world, be able to add onto the Wisconsin Badgers for this coming season, to make that national title push, and end this week with our Big DAWGs of the week. So I guess the first piece of business here, boys, is, we sat here last week and talked about, a couple positions in need, maybe where we'd like to add, one of which that Coop and I had felt was pretty strongly about was the offensive line. And, they go out, they add a Leighton Nelson from Vanderbilt. He played 2 years under current offensive line coach, AJ Blazik. Had a pretty decent offer list out of high school. It was a high 3-star recruit. Kid who's coming in to they view as a potential successor as right tackle of the future, behind a Malman. Like there are a lot of options right now, for the future, but there's not a lot of experience. So I want to throw it over to you, Jason. Thoughts on this addition?
Yeah, I think it's definitely needed, like you guys said, and because we talked last week about that swing offensive lineman, swing tackle potentially being a freshman, and what the fuck are we going to do if that happens? So I think this is just a good depth piece, somebody who has a little bit of experience, A, with the coach, and B, with, just college football, what it takes to play college football. So I think it's a very, very good addition to an offensive line room that hopefully isn't done adding in the portal.
Yeah, right. I mean, they've been connected to, an interior lineman from Arkansas. They hosted Joey Okla on a visit. Could be, former, in-state kid, could be a potential option down the road as well. I am in complete agreement with you, Coop. You got any thoughts about this one?
I really don't know anything about the player. I'll say that. The fact that he played at Vanderbilt doesn't excite me a ton.
SEC football, it just means more.
But it doesn't. You saw the stadium.
Probably a smart kid.
Like,
power to football player.
Don't know anything about the player, but obviously, if he's following Blazek, like, he's got to like something about the guy. And like Jay said, we were talking about that kind of rotational offensive lineman, and we all agreed last week, like, we think fucking Kevin Haywood's going to be a stud, but you don't want to throw him in there when he's not ready. I think his best course of action is to redshirt, and then please don't transfer, because you're probably going to be so good at Wisconsin. But no, getting the guy who's got experience in the portal was a must. Another one wouldn't be upsetting, I'll say that. But like I said, I really don't know much about the player, but just someone with experience and someone the offensive line coach obviously trusts, like, hey, okay, I'll buy in.
Yeah, I think that's a big piece right there, is like, this is somebody who has been directly with our offensive line coach, and he and Luke Fickell are kind of in lockstep in their vision for what they want that position group to be moving forward. And obviously somebody he trusts enough at this point to bring in a player who's worked under him for a few years. And
yeah,
obviously we've kind of talked about it before, but like, this is a really veteran offensive line, and obviously we have a ton. This is a 5-person like freshman incoming class, on the offensive line, but we don't really have a lot of options that we can look at right this second and say, like, that's who's going to start next year when they're gone. Where at Wisconsin, I feel like we've often had, options to choose from, and that's just going to be part of this portal era, is a lot of those guys won't be there to choose from So to have somebody like a Kevin Haywood and then maybe a Leighton Nelson that you view as your potential tackles of the future, that's a pretty good starting point. I want to throw it over to you, Ryan. What are your thoughts on this edition?
Yeah, I think it's good. I a little bit nervous about not bringing in if you're going to bring in a swing tackle or someone, or because right now the depth is the biggest issue. Like a lot of the second team and the third team, you got scout team players and walk-ons and tryout players just trying to field it so they can get their third team. I think Kevin Haywood is going to be the left tackle of the future. Like Coop said, is hopefully he can redshirt and not transfer. He seems like he's got a good support system around him, so he doesn't seem like a guy that would just bounce after a year. But in today's day and age, you almost can't fault him if there's gonna be no regulation. But I don't know. I love the idea of Kevin Haywood. I've watched him at practice a couple times. He seems like he's gonna be a mauler, an absolute ass kicker, and that's exactly what we need at the left tackle position. With this one, I'm a little bit nervous because, like you said, it was SEC football. But if he wasn't getting a lot of playing time, and because it's Vanderbilt, I'm not entirely sure what kind of scout team or defense he's going up against, even in his limited reps to help develop him. So the idea of he came from the SEC, he's going to have, quality reps against the big boy conference. I don't know who he's going against in practice, but like you said, I think the idea that he was with Coach Blazek over there, he knows how he coaches. He knows how to motivate him. He knows he knows his strengths and weaknesses. So he's going to put him in a position to succeed. With Michael Reski and some of these other dogs coming in, I don't know if I would pencil him in as the right tackle of the future, but it's not my decision to make, obviously. But I like the idea of that would be his position opposite Kevin Haywood. But I don't know. I like to see a bunch of hungry dogs get in there and then see who's going to get it. So you got the Michael Reskis, the Kevin Haywoods, and then you have other guys coming up. I think a Michael somebody also, that's Michael Steele or somebody was on campus and really liked it. But you just got to flood that position room because, like you said, it's going to be very, very young after this veteran-laden group leaves.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, this is only going to be year 2 of them making a complete overhaul of their offensive system and, recruiting to that at this point, starting to, get a couple more of their own guys in there. I think you just add as many bodies at the position that you trust and you feel fits the direction you're going. And, overall was just happy to see how they added to this group. I thought it was absolutely necessary. And to your point, there's going to be a lot more young bodies coming in, and whoever claims the spots in the 2 deep, so be it. I feel good about a lot of those younger options. And if they do find themselves in the 2 deep, means they earned it. Simple as that.
I think things are going to be really interesting. Maybe not necessarily this year, but next year with all these young guys, because we said it last week too, recruiting a kid or having a kid come into the program who's 20, 21, 22, and has been in college weight room for 2-3 years, has been playing against that talent, it's just that person's just more ready than an 18-year-old kid. But in this day and age, if you don't play that 18, 19-year-old kid, you're not going to have him when he's 20, 21. So it's you got to balance that.
Yeah, 100%. It's a really delicate balance that they've got to strike right now. And like I said, depth is going to be an issue. It's not going to be like years past where, you look and you feel really good about 7 guys. And sometimes you're almost clamoring for an 8th guy to work in every once in a while. That's what we've been used to. And in this NIL world, offensive line is not a position you want to hit the market looking for. Offensive line, defensive line are positions, where you are paying a lot for what is available on the open market. So it's incredibly important that you hit on these guys that you're bringing in.
But not even, I think that says a lot about Fickell and the current coaching staff. Most of the offensive linemen who are going to be starting next year got recruited for a completely different style of play than what we're playing under Phil Longo and Luke Fickell. These guys aren't necessarily built for that system. But for Fickell and company to be able to retain them, I'm surprised Nelson or Malman honestly didn't hit the portal.
Yeah,
maybe it's just me, but I don't know. And so that gives me confidence on them being able to keep these younger freshmen moving forward. It's just the belief I think they have in the coaches.
I think they definitely believe in them, and I also think that for their own development's sake, it will just make them better players. I mean, the NFL is is all spread at this point. Like it's not
Yeah,
what
but
Wisconsin used to be, and like I feel like this is giving them an opportunity to develop and like truly work. Like, what's the knock on every Wisconsin tackle who's gone to the NFL? It was always, we're not sure if he can pass block. There's not a lot there on tape. Like they don't know. Well, that's changing, and I feel like they're playing in a system, that's a little bit closer to what we see on Sundays now. And at least
but it's just surprising that like none of them are like, you know what, man, fuck this. Like this isn't what I signed up for, and I can go get more money somewhere else.
I think if Jack Nelson has a good year, there's no reason he won't be like a first round pick. If the Badgers are good and Jack Nelson has a good season, like why wouldn't he? He's got a lot of good tape.
Well, I think part of it, the way you got to look at too is like when you look at the NFL like kind of what Dylan was saying, like they went to a spread concept, but they still run the power plays, and you still got to be able to block, pass block, run block. But I think part of it too is like with the NFL, it stands for not for long. Like that's kind of what we always look at it as. And if you're going to bounce around from team to team to team, you're going to need scheme versatility. So if you're just going to be a guy that can only maul in a pro style Wisconsin system, you will not make it in the NFL. So that's why you so often you see like the David Edwards and the Michael Dieters and guys that played on the edge. Like you're now a guard because you're good enough in college, but we need you to get inside and maul because they can't be outside. So this is giving them an opportunity to adjust their scheme versatility, their skills, and learn different pass sets and learn, because a lot of times in the NFL, coaches and everything is going to change so fast. But to Coop's point about like keeping the guys that are here and then like being able to sell the younger guys, I think the offensive line room just in general is a different breed of cats. You know what I mean? Like they're not the skill guys. They're like, if I'm not on the field, I'm transferring. Like for the most part, when you come play big boy football on Saturdays, like that 18-year-old body isn't going to be able to go up against grown men. Like you're not at the NFL level yet, but when you're playing against the Jerzon Newtons and the Michael Halls and the Nick Bosas and the Joey Bosas and the Chase Youngs and the Chop Robinsons of the world that are all like first round picks in the Big Ten, like just because you were mauling some kids from the DECA and the academic decathlon the year before in high school doesn't mean you're prepared to go against those NFL caliber players. So I think the guys, and I think that's kind of on Fickle and Longo and even Blazek, is when you come in here, if you absolutely earn the job, we'll play you. They seem like they'll play anybody as long as you play. But I think there's also an expectation.
I hope so.
There's also, it seems like there's an expectation though that it's like, we're going to play who's best, but we also are selling this to you in the long term. Because I don't know Kevin Haywood's story or Ryan Corey's story, but I can't imagine they said, hey, come in here as an 18-year-old freshman and you're going to get playing time. I think it's just kind of understood as an offensive lineman. Like you're going to have to put on good weight. You're going to have to hit the weight room. But redshirt freshman, I think if you're asking someone their redshirt freshman season to sit, then they're definitely gone. But I think in your true freshman on offense or defensive line, it's just such an ask to get true freshmen out there that I think that's kind of like either told to them or it's just well understood. Like that is a feat that not many are able to do.
Talking about the Badgers being able to keep a lot of their players. There's another program at Wisconsin right now that is not doing such a good job keeping, some of their players, and that would be the men's basketball program. And with those vacancies, they've been in the portal working, at about 3 plan A targets. Started off as 2. Obviously, Chucky enters the portal, creates a need at point guard. So Wisconsin, kind of pivots and they go all in, obviously, on a Frankie Fiddler, a guy who, at one point was considered a Wisconsin lean before his Michigan State visit. And that was also when Chucky Hepburn was still part of the Wisconsin Badgers.
The bigger piece. Yeah.
And, so he departs, he chooses the Spartans. Then you've got, Tyrese Hunter, a guy from Racine, with, obviously an in-state kid that Wisconsin took Chucky Hepburn over in that class. Whether or not Hunter would have come here, who knows? But Wisconsin locked up Hepburn early in that one. That was their point guard. He was kind of the pivot point there, and he ends up choosing Memphis. And then Brandon Angel, a guy who that they were after incredibly hard, had on campus as well. He ends up making a last-minute trip out to Oregon, and that's where he commits. And so where we sit here today, boys, kind of when taken in total, the events that transpired here is about as close to the worst case scenario as I think any one of us could have sat here and painted. At the end of the regular or the end of the postseason run there or lack thereof. This is about as bad as I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. You had 3 plan A targets. It was only going to be 2. A third was kind of created, and we're 0 for 3 as of today. Jason, I want to throw it over to you. Where are you at and with your panic meter at all of this? And, kind of just where's your head at with this whole process? Because we'll go around the table, but I've definitely got some thoughts for the end.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand. Like, are the Badgers even getting guys on campus? I know Fiddler came to campus. Like, did Angel come to campus? Like,
Brandon Angel visited.
And then, like, so I guess I don't get what, if it's all purely money thing, like, are the Badgers being, there's just so much unknown with recruiting, I feel like, that it becomes really frustrating. And I would say, like, if they don't get somebody in the next, like, week or two, like, I mean, we're heading into the offseason with a pretty rough roster. Like, so I'm uncomfortable right now, for sure.
I don't know how you couldn't be with what the roster currently is. Obviously, we know those spots are going to be filled, and there's no way that it could get worse than it is today. But
don't say that.
Yeah, I hate
the
that.
The portal closes on the 1st, Dylan. Don't say that.
I hate that so much.
I don't see a path for this roster to have any less productive players on it, a couple of weeks from now.
I didn't see a path to Chucky Hepburn transferring a month ago.
I mean, this is totally fair. But Wisconsin, that's a world that Wisconsin can't play in right now. And that's why Chucky Hepburn departed here. Coop, I do want to throw it over to you, though. I guess where are you at with the panic meter? Where are you at with all this? I'm sure you got some thoughts on maybe the state of where things are at.
I mean, like I said last week, boys, we're at a light 6 to a strong 7 on the old guard meter. I'm kind of panicking. I'm not going to lie. Like, we haven't gotten anyone from the portal. And what have we lost now? 8 or 9 players?
I haven't even felt good, though, about anybody.
4
really.
scholarship players.
Maybe felt decent about Fiddler coming for like a day, and then it was like that was gone.
Yeah, like I was confident in him coming. When he delayed, like my first thought was, okay, him and Chucky are going to Creighton. But then obviously Chucky probably told him, like, hey, man, Louisville offered me a bag I can't pass up. Like, so I think Fiddler was coming to Wisconsin, and then Chucky was like, hey, this happened. Like, I can't pass up this opportunity. Like, just want to let you know. And then he visited MSU, and Izzo was probably like, hey, here's $100,000 more or whatever than the Badgers are paying you. Or I love Greg Gard, or I'm Tom fucking Izzo. Like,
that's a good card to play. That's a good card to play.
But as to say, like,
I think all of those things are probably true.
Yeah,
in some capacity.
Some part of that all happened.
But as far as the roster, like Jason said, like we need something, and we need it quick. I know guys are in and out of the portal every day now. I mean, you see guys where it's like, oh, I love Dylan's tweet. It was like that wide receiver from USC. Or you sent this the one that Ann tweeted. It was like, yeah, I messed up or whatever. I'm sorry. Like, I was clowning.
That's the kind of transparency I'm yearning for.
Yeah,
in the portal. Like, my fault. I was tripping.
Yeah,
like, I'm back. Like that's awesome.
We've seen that, and guys were interested in. Like, didn't Trimble go back to UNC today?
Yeah,
and that's a huge one. Like, we're missing out on. I feel like everyone we've said we're interested in, besides like 4 guys right now, maybe, we've all missed out on. And as much as defend guard, that's partially on him. Like, I get maybe our money situation is not the best compared to other schools, but like if we can't get guys from, and I know Dayton's a good basketball school, but if we can't make the top 5.
But his top 5 is like Dayton or is like Duke, Kentucky, Kansas. Like, to be fair,
Yeah, it was a list of blue
that guy's
bloods,
going to a blue blood. Like,
Okay, yes, you're right, but you get the point I'm making.
yeah,
Like, if we can't get some of these make top 5 on some of these top mid-major guys, like, what are we doing here? Because those are the guys we're going to get now. Like, we're not going to get guys from Arizona, North Carolina, Kentucky. Like, those guys aren't transferring to Wisconsin unless shit went absolutely south.
to
And
use an old like a basketball adage, like, we just need to see one go through the net. I don't even fucking.
yeah, I just need a guy. Just give me a guy.
I don't care who it is. I just want somebody.
I want a guy.
Yeah.
I was messaging with my guy Jake today, and he just said, we need a guy because I just need that dopamine rush. That's what he said. I'm with you at this.
But even like Jason, I think Jason said it last week or the week before. Like, if we get, or maybe it was Ked, like if we get 2 of the right guys, all of a sudden you're like, hey man, this roster is pretty fucking strong. Like,
yeah,
and there's still those guys out there, but we're just missing on our top targets, and it's so fucking frustrating.
That right there is the part where there's just no way to sugarcoat that part. Like, obviously, we're all aware of the fact that there are layers to what we are talking about. And I'm going to throw it over to you, Ryan. Where are you at, I guess, with all of this right now? I know that you've kind of you've become more of a glass half full kind of guy in the last, 72 hours. And I'd like to explore maybe where your head's at right now.
Yeah. For those that know, I'm a huge guard guy now.
Buddy.
I love my toxic.
Oh, how the turntables.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a mix up here.
Guy talks to Ked one time, and he's a fucking guard fan now.
hey, Ked was a little bit.
He's doing the Lord's work out there.
Hey, it's got to do Lord's work, but as far as I don't know, there's so much to unpack here. I could literally just sit here and listen to the 3 of you, because when I was talking about expectations and all this stuff and what does success look like, and I was just a one man on a raft. Misery loves company. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Come and join me. It's nice to see you guys are starting to put a little panic in your socks. So I think for an actual panic standpoint, I don't know if we need to panic at this point. And I know that sounds like, what are you talking about? But we've already missed out on our top guys. Is there really a rush yes, we want to fill out the roster because, like Dylan said, we lost 4 scholarship guys, but I think we're not making enough too. And I don't need to go down this rabbit hole, but we're not making enough of those bench players too. Like, those people help in practice. Like, they serve a big purpose. So I know we're saying we need to fill out like 3 or 4 guys, but we legitimately need to fill out 6 or 7 to make a roster. Like, we need practice players, we need role players, we need scout team guys. So it's like, we got a lot of work to do. I just feel like because we missed all of our top guys, I don't know if there's necessarily a panic, because there's only so many spots on all these people that are getting players, the Kansas, the Louisville, the Dukes, the North Carolinas. They only have so many spots. So eventually we're going to be the big dog on campus, because we're going to get the pick of the litter, because now that and that's not a great position to be in, but I'm trying to look at it from a glass half full standpoint, is there's over 1,400 players in the portal. At some point, all these guys are going to be done adding players. We're going to be able to get value, because we're talking right now, like, we're going to have to overpay. Like, a lot of these guys are getting $1 million bags. But as if you have 2 like players, now you have a bidding war. Like, do they want to come to Wisconsin? Or are they going to go back to Northern Colorado or Dayton? Well, not Dayton, because like you said, they're good. But like, for the most part, like, we're going to be the best option. Now, that's not the place we wanted to be in, but you got to kind of make the house you're living in look nice. So we're kind of living in a neighborhood we don't want to live in with the roster that we're going to have. But I think we're actually setting ourselves up to make the best of it, because we're going to have like 1,400 players to comb through, because everyone else is going to be done.
Yeah, but there's a reason the top targets are your top targets. Like,
I don't disagree.
Those are the guys who are going to help your team the most. And when you strike out on basically 90-something% of them, I mean, you could argue there's a couple guys left in the portal who would be top targets for Wisconsin. But like, when you're striking out at the clip we are, it's a cause for concern, I think.
So, and I think we're moving the goalpost also on what top target is, because we're like broken up about Frankie Fiddler. And when I first heard that was an option, I'm like, get this Nebraska Omaha looking ass out of here. But now we're looking at it like this is the second coming of Michael Jordan, and Mike Jordan isn't walking through that door.
Yeah.
So
I think I'm gonna
Go ahead, Jay.
I think I'm gonna go through the transfer portal and just start sending guard like DMs and be like, all right, I like this guy. Let's go after this guy. I've been in his DMs. I think he's
Okay.
got some interest.
The
You need-
director of recruiting job is open, so maybe if you're
sign me up. I'm going to start recruiting.
We need to enter Jay in the transfer portal and see if Greg Gard bites.
Hey, at the end of the
He's a lefty from DeForest, Wisconsin.
Do we got any
Shot 56% from three.
Do we got
Jay's
any
an underrated passer? Underrated passer.
I'll fucking tear up his own. We've talked about it before, but I will.
He was like Nigel Hayes in his own. It was nuts.
His biggest skill, locker room guy.
Big locker room guy. Yeah.
Yep. Could probably get you a Propel sponsorship.
Yeah, that's the money we need for NIL.
Right?
So speaking of NIL, and I feel like that's going to be the overarching point that I try to make. Ryan, I want to make it clear that I actually think that your take on all that was very level-headed, and it's the reality of where we're at with Wisconsin, because I too am hitting a layer of, a panic button, and just in the sense that these are the players you identified at the top of your board, and for reasons X, Y, and Z, you didn't get them. There's no way to sugarcoat missing on your top options. But I think that this opens up the door to a much larger discussion about that. There's a disconnect between, I feel like most people are not understanding what NIL is and then what pay for play is. And those are the two different things that are happening here. And those are two worlds, one in which Wisconsin can compete in at a really high level, and one that I, at this point, don't believe that they can compete in. So my point is that I think that Wisconsin has a really good NIL infrastructure, through the varsity collective. I think that's a huge feather in their cap right now, truthfully, because student athletes, when they're in school, are in a position where they can make really good money. I think that's huge, but you have to get a kid to agree to come here, to partake in all of that. Like, I think that the varsity collective has got a really good NIL infrastructure where they can make money on their name, image, and likeness. But what we're experiencing in the portal is pay for play, and Wisconsin does not have the upfront cash that these other schools have,
Which is the problem.
It's the whole problem to me anyway, because in high school recruiting, I think that it's a lot easier to pitch to a kid, hey, we can put you in these kinds of positions to succeed from the day you step onto campus. You never have to think about it. I think that's massive. And it will, in some cases, allow Wisconsin to retain some of their really good players. But the transfer portal is instant gratification. It's just the open market. It's pay for play. It's upfront cash. And it's really tough if you're Wisconsin without that upfront cash to appeal at the same level as somebody else who says, hey, I can give you this bag right now. And I think that's the world right now that Wisconsin is not prepared to compete in. And for all of the things I think Wisconsin is doing well in this day and age to hold true to their core values, I do not think that they are prepared for this. And so because of that, I think people need to accept the reality that without these partnerships, perhaps a private entity, like look at a Memphis, just getting FedEx involved, giving them $5 million. Like without these entities, without this upfront money, this is what's going to happen. And so I'm frustrated. I do think that there will come a point where if Wisconsin, I'm not saying they are or are not doing these things, I do not know the answer, but there's going to come a point where the players that are left in the portal, you're going to sift through and eventually you will rise to the top as an option, or it's time to go shopping on players who are on rosters at slightly lower levels that can't compete with the money that we do have, because there are going to be people in power conferences that are not in as good of a position as Wisconsin. And it's time to Hepburn somebody else, like throw the bag that we can throw at a kid who is better than the option in the portal that, at name your spot that we're looking for. I think that's the world that we're in right now. We can't compete with, again, NIL, pay for play, two different worlds. I think Wisconsin is ill-equipped to compete in one of them. And so for that, I'm with you, Ryan. Eventually, they're going to put themselves in a position where they bring in people and we feel all right about this roster. I think there's a chance they'll even be good. But right now, this is tough to stomach because I think to me, this is a much bigger realization than simply, hey, we've lost 3 recruiting battles, because I don't know that we lost all of the recruiting battles, money aside.
But like the difference between NIL and pay for play, every school is dealing with that. Like, go find the fucking money, man.
The money changed in the last year.
But there's people in Wisconsin with a lot of fucking money.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying I think Wisconsin's money people were a year behind in where this game just evolved into.
I think we were 2 years behind.
I think we're 3 years behind.
Either way, yeah. We can argue that till the fucking cows come home. But like, I don't know. Like, my take on, like, I get it. And there's this is not what NIL was intended to be. I think anyone with half a brain can admit that. Like, name, image, and likeness. That's what it was intended to be. Like, Johnny Manziel is the best example. Like, you can make $100,000 off signing autographs. Not Texas A&M. I mean, I know he transferred there, but like, say he wins the Heisman at A&M, and then Alabama offers him fucking $5 or $6 million guaranteed up front, like, to be their starting quarterback. Like, that's the difference between NIL and pay for play. Like, hey, you can make money off signing autographs for people, or hey, we'll give you $6 million just to show up on campus, brother. And
that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
like, not the number 6 million, but like the point is the same.
Yeah, but that's where it's like, I get where I'm kind of impartial on it because I blame the NCAA for this, but I get where people like Ryan, who are like, and I love college sports too, but people who are like hardcore, like, love the college sports and love the tradition, like, I get where this is just leaving a sour taste in their mouth because there's nothing you can do about it. Say we get a 5-star quarterback who's a freshman, plays his freshman year, throws for like 42 touchdowns or something. You know, some other school is going to be like, hey, we can pay you triple what Wisconsin can pay you. And why would you not take that money? Instead of, hey, you can stay at Wisconsin and we can do autograph sessions. You can be a sponsor for this beer company. You can be a sponsor for American Family. You know, like, it got lost in translation, I think, what the whole NIL structure should be. But they should have known. Like, we should have known this, especially when the NCAA started losing court cases. That's when you knew it's like, okay, this is going to get out of fucking hand real quick.
I feel like there's no chance anything changes in this world right now until some coach decides to be like a whistleblower in terms of tampering, because like we've just collectively decided tampering.
I don't even think that would help. I don't even know if that would help.
I feel like it would create a domino effect because every coach has tampered to some degree. And I feel like it would immediately call for regulation.
Yeah, but I don't think at the end of the day, like when you look at the two, I don't like, because Coop was saying that, like, I don't think where it's playing out as it's meant to be. These are two distinct pots that and structures. So like the thing I always struggled with is, much like you, Coop, last week when we were talking about how the collective just needs to figure it out. But I think kind of what is getting lost too, like I think with fans specifically, and I was in this camp too until I became enlightened, is because what you're saying is pay for play is basically, we're going to give you, like for basketball, for instance, we're going to give you $1.3 million, show up on campus and hoop, versus, hey, we're going to give you money, but you got to earn it. Now, obviously, you have to earn it playing basketball or whatever. But if you come to Wisconsin, you have to do autograph sessions. You have to do boys and girls club stuff. You have to do these cringy varsity collective videos where it almost seems like they're being
held hostage. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, that's how they're earning their money. It's like they get a certain amount of money once they're here, but they have to do all those things. Versus, so all things being equal, if you had a player that, let's just use $1 million, and Wisconsin was going to give you $1 million, but you had to do all of those things I just said, or you can get $1 million and play somewhere else, and all you got to do is hoop.
Show up. All you got to do is show up.
It's not a hard decision.
Sounds pretty good to me. I know what choice I'd make.
Yeah. And that's where that's where I think like the biggest, I don't know if I call it a disconnect maybe, but the biggest thing is between like college football traditionalists as far as fans against the landscape nowadays, where it's like they don't like, I know Ryan, it's like you don't mind, okay, you show up on campus, we give you 50 grand up front, but then you're gonna earn $550,000 through all of this. Like I feel like that would be respected. Whereas now it's just, hey, whoever's got the most money is going to get the best players. And I think that's what's part of everyone's like, oh, it's ruining college sports. For me, yeah, maybe it's ruining some of like the sanctity of it, but I'm still going to watch. So it's hard for me to be like, well, it's ruining college sports. It's like, yeah, like it might suck, but I'm still going to fucking watch it. And it's super fun to talk about. And there's a bunch of news.
But why are you going to watch?
Because I like to gamble.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I think overall, like, obviously I don't like what it has turned into, but I'm going to continue to tune in because I'm a fan of the program and all of that.
Yeah.
I just think it's never going to look the same as we once knew it. And the change happened very quickly.
That's okay.
So I think that's hard for us to accept. But yeah, like that's where I'm at, is like I'm in a period of like I understand where this is going, and I'm also, there's a part of me mourning the part that I loved about it that won't exist anymore. But I still love, like, I love these players getting what is coming to them. I'm all about it because I feel like in general, Wisconsin, football or basketball, I feel like they benefit more from the portal than they don't. Obviously, this offseason just hasn't really been the case for that on the basketball front, but
no, and
I love all of this. I'm just also, it's just also hard to accept, some of the ways, some of the pageantry maybe that we loved and all of those things, like those things are dead.
I love that people they can finally get paid. It's 50 to 7, however many years overdue. Like it's awesome. The way it happened, like with the Ed O'Bannon case and everything, wasn't ideal for the NCAA. And they were reactive, not proactive, which fucked this whole thing up. But what it's turning into, it's pro sports. It always has been. But now it's like the baseball of pro sports, where technically there's a salary cap, but really whoever has the most money can just get the best players. And I think that's a huge turnoff for fans. And I know that's difficult, especially in football when you have so many people on the roster. Obviously, there's only so much money to go around. But like you look at universities like Arkansas, where it's like, hey, we can get two alumni to donate like $25-30 million every year if we really want to. Or like Memphis, where it's like, hey, we can sign a 5-year agreement with FedEx and get $25 million. Like whoever's got the most money is going to get the best players. And to me, that's where it's like the baseball kind of professional sports. And I think we all know how much it sucks watching teams like the Dodgers or the Yankees and shit like that just get the best players and like be in the World Series every year. Like it's fucking boring.
It's time, and I'm sure this already happens in more ways than we probably already realize. But it's time for Wisconsin to bring in general managers separate of head coaches, to manage these rosters full time. It's what needs to. It's what needs to happen.
Should that be Chris McIntosh?
No, he's in charge of enough.
Why not?
I don't feel like there's any way he could manage the rosters for all of the programs in which he's in charge of.
No. Football and basketball, the money makers.
But that's not his job. His job is all of the programs. So for that, I think
you delegate that shit.
No. Can I push back on two things?
You worry about swimming, dude. I got fucking basketball. Who's our backup center?
Can I push back on two things? So when Coop was saying that I think it's all going to be okay and like that the game will still go on, I think the problem that I struggle with, and I'm sure others do too, but maybe I'm in the minority, but I'm still going to watch. I'm not going to pretend like, oh, I'm just going to, clutch my pearls and not watch. But I think the idea of when you start losing fans from diehard like I used to think I'm diehard. I'm going to watch every 60 minutes of all 12 games, no matter how bad we're whooping ass or how bad we're getting our ass kicked. I'm still going to watch. But once you move from that diehard to casual, I feel like it's going to be hard to get the people to donate, because like for me, like if I'm going to go to a game, let's say I'm a diehard. I have season tickets, but let's pretend I don't. If I'm looking on StubHub or SeatGeek or whoever wants to help sponsor the show, whatever platform you want us to look at, am I going to pay $600 to go to the Wisconsin-Alabama game? Or am I going to find $600 to go do something else? First, if I'm a diehard, I got to be there to support the boys. Win or lose, let's nut cutting time. Let's get out there and take it to the Crimson Tide. I think that's where the erosion of your fan base is, because I think a lot of this kind of gets back to, like, I was looking into some old case studies with like how NASCAR, antitrust laws and that kind of stuff. And NASCAR alienated their base because they tried to make it for everyone. They tried to change their sport enough that the real people with the real money that liked it the way it was just kind of fell by the wayside. And that's kind of what I get afraid of with college sports for the most part, is like, yes, the pageantry will still be there. You'll still have your bands and whatever. I think the part that I struggle with is like, we're so focused, and I love to gamble too. So I'm not going to poo-poo it and act like it's not a big deal. But I think gambling getting into this is the driving force of why people care. And that's fine, because it gives us something to do. It gives us something to gamble on. But at the end of the day, like, the people that love their university, the Ted Kellners, the Tyson chicken guy that gave all their money to Arkansas, Jerry Jones with Arkansas, like all these different people, like eventually, if it's just going to be an AAU, why would they put their money into like semi-professional rosters when they could donate it to other things? Like, that's the part I worry about, is like the real people with the real money that really care are going to be turned off enough that they start making their decisions with their wallets, because everybody would tell you what they care about with what they spend their resources on. So I'm afraid that, like, we keep talking about like Wisconsin doesn't have enough for this pay for play. Well, how many of these donors are going to sign up to give, like a point guard $1 million, and then 9 months later he leaves and you had an ass whipping to James Madison? You say, what did I get for my $1 million? I think that's the part that we're going to struggle with.
Yeah, no one wants to do it, but at some point you might have to if you want to compete.
But who says that they want to compete?
That's the big question. No, then that's the $1 million question right there.
Because the thing I also look at too is like, in the SEC, Jay made a joke earlier, like it always means more. But if you look at the Big Ten, how focused on research, huh?
I said he made a joke.
Yeah. Well, just what he was saying, like it means more. But I was thinking to myself, like, when we talk about like, conference restructuring, realignment, what is the big thing on why Big Ten will add or not add schools? It's AAU, research, federal grants, and all. That's like, they want AAU institutions because they really care about the education. I don't know if the Big Ten programs and like administrations are ever going to buy in like some of these lunatic fan bases. Like, you even hear Ryan Day saying, "Oh, he's out there was huckling for money 2 years ago, saying I need $13 million to pay my roster," and he was struggling at Ohio State. I just don't know that the Wisconsins, the Minnesotas, the Indianas, the Northwesterns are ever going to want to compete at the level of the SEC, because they care more about their institutions and their research programs and all that than they care about entertaining some fans on a Saturday.
And that's a problem. One question I'll pose for everyone here. Say we go to contracts for players. I know we've talked about like 2-year contracts. Is school a requirement? And if so, is a certain GPA a requirement, you think, or no?
I think it would be in the Big Ten.
I think it would have to be on some level.
But then again, if you're making a contract employees and you're just an entertainer,
yeah,
why immediate eligibility? Why can't we just have Jack? Like, I think I talked about it with Ked. Why don't we just have Jack Cohn come back? Like, why, if he's taken one grad class and he's a graduate student, like technically he's still a student, so why can't he play? Because why do you need eligibility if it's not tied to school, but it's tied to contracts?
Yeah. Jason, what about you?
Yeah, I if they don't have to go to school, why even call it?
That's my point too. Yeah.
So I would. It just seems like then it's just the XFL or UFL, whatever the hell they call that now, and that
But better.
is it.
Yes.
So I guess to kind of close this whole football, basketball, NIL, pay for play, portal chatter here, we'll kind of wrap up on the Wisconsin men's basketball team is going to host Morehead State point guard Mark Freeman this weekend on a visit. That's where we're at. One of the only known portal visitors that we have on the docket. Matt Cross is a player who I believe will be on campus this coming weekend as well. Obviously he's it was one of the Minutemen's best players. He's a stretch forward, kind of would fit a need. But right now that's where we're at. That's the men's basketball portal chatter. But more importantly, fellas, the NFL draft is this week. And so
My favorite time of the year, that March Madness.
So, for Coop, who's just been absolutely like a heroin addict, trying to have himself a
dude.
draft.
And this isn't even the topic I wanted to do, but it got thrown out there, and I was like, "Yep, sign me up."
So today we are going to do 3 rounds, taking players from this year's NFL draft list to add to this year's Wisconsin Badgers team to make them national title contenders. And I'm going to grab me a beer. Pick number 1. You're on the clock.
Well, as Coop's looking at, if you remember, so what we're going to do is these are going to be 3 guys that we're going to draft in a snake order draft. The first pick would be Cooper. The second pick would be me, Ryan. The third pick is Jason, right? Well, you're laughing, but I'm making sure like Spotify listeners know who we're talking
Yeah,
about.
I know.
Yeah.
Your third pick, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And Dylan is 4. So a snake draft, he gets 4 and 5. So what 3 players are you going to have? Or what 3 players are you going to add to this version, this 2024 Wisconsin football team to improve their chances in making a run towards the playoff and a national title?
Yeah, and originally we floated the idea of 5 rounds. We settled on 3. So that does change my draft strategy a little bit.
A little bit.
But at 1-1, I am not going Caleb Williams. I am not taking a quarterback. I'm taking who I think the best player in the draft is. Give me Marvin Harrison Jr. 1-1. I think we can skate by with Locker, TVD at quarterback. Harrison Jr. is the best player in the draft, in my opinion. I know wide receiver isn't the weakest room we have, but you add a guy like this to any team, and your offense is all of a sudden exponentially better than you could ever dream of. I mean, was he 6'4", like runs a 4.33. He had 15 touchdowns last year, I think 14 the year before. All the guy does is fucking make plays. Like 1-1, I think he's the best player. I don't think we need a quarterback first overall. Give me Marvin Harrison Jr.
All right.
Makes a lot of sense to me. He's really good at football. From
Like super good at football, dude.
Carter Holman kind of shut him down, but whatever.
Kinda. And what do you have? 90 yards?
And I don't
100
think
yards?
I personally don't think Tyler Van Dyke or Braden Locke are even half as good as Kyle McCord. So I don't know. I don't know that I agree with any of that.
You don't think they're as good as Kyle McCord?
No, not even
Who's
kind of.
playing at Syracuse?
I mean, Braden Locke played against Ohio State. Kyle McCord played against Wisconsin, and they won.
Buddy.
This guy.
I'll be honest. I would take Kyle McCord as well. I'm with Jason.
Yeah, all
I
day.
wouldn't. I love my guys.
You
Dude.
made my draft even easier.
I like my guys.
I'm glad I made your draft easier. It's going to be an absolute pile of dog shit. Marvin Harrison Jr. 1-1, no
You
doubter.
can pick an entire 2 years, Coop, and I'll still win this draft.
No,
I'm
you're
not
being
scared.
entire 2 years,
I ain't
cool.
scared.
Buddy.
I guess a good follow-up question, but while we're actively in the draft, if somebody addresses a position, does that mean that you cannot address that position?
No, you can take
Oh, you
whatever
do
you want.
whatever you want.
Loud and clear.
But yeah, give me Big Marv.
I was gonna say I hope not because I didn't put a lot of effort into this. So
Yeah, we know.
To be fair, at the end, we're going to put this on Twitter, and we're going to have a poll to see who thinks who's got the best 3 additions.
And people might hate Marvin Harrison Jr. 1-1, but just give me the best player. Like, it's not complicated.
I mean, if we're being fair, he was number 2 on my big board. But as with the number 2 pick, because you're apparently a crazy person, I am going to take a quarterback. I am going to take a quarterback. I'm going to take one that actually played with Phil Longo before and put up lightning numbers, and I'm going to take Drake May.
That was going to be my pick.
Number 2?
It's a good
Number
pick.
2 overall. And to you, I agree. I am not touching Caleb Williams with someone else's dick. Like, no diddy. Because there is no chance I want anything to do with this guy. Every interview I hear, like, this dude better be a first ballot Hall of Famer the way he talks. Did you guys see today on the pivot with Ryan Clark?
Yep.
He's talking about I should have started as a freshman over Spencer. Brother, you better be good. Like, good God. So I'm going to take Drake May. Caleb Williams, he can keep his fingernail painting, lip gloss, have an ass away from my program. So I'm going to take Drake May because he's got, the dual dimensions. He's got the Phil Longo. He's not going to take a whole lot of time to learn the offense. So we get Buddy in here on Thursday night. Just, get him on a Badger bus up from the O'Hare Airport and insert QB1 there.
I just want to say, if you paint your nails or have lip gloss, that does not take you off my draft board.
No, 100%. It
sounded like 100% the other way.
Everyone's got their reasons.
No, that's not why he's off my draft board. That's just how I identify him, as the lip gloss, pink phone.
That's your problem. You don't know what he identifies as.
He identifies as not the number 2 overall fucking pick. Is what it does. He identifies as Jason's pick at pick 3. And good luck, Bears fans.
Hey, thanks, guys, for giving me the best overall player and the 1-1 player in the NFL draft. I'll take Caleb Williams. No further questions.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best overall player.
No.
Yes.
Yeah,
I have nothing else to say. Caleb Williams.
I think Caleb Williams is a steal at 3. By the way,
thanks, guys. Are you guys trying or no? Did you just want me to win every draft or?
I'm just asking. So when he doesn't win the game because he's running around and then throws it to the other team, is he going to go up to the student section and cry in the stands to his mom, or is he going to wait till he gets?
Don't care. We won't lose. Not worried about it.
Okay. Well, we still have our roster.
The Bears won't lose. Yep.
I'm not talking about. I'm not drafting for the Bears. I'm drafting for a college team.
Yeah, I know, but still.
Well, I was hoping to hear that Caleb Williams might slip to me, at 4, because I didn't see that coming. But I'm going with I'm trying to build, this program kind of ground up, address some positions where I don't think there are as many, elite prospects. I want to take Brock Bowers with my first pick. I think there are going to be players available to me that I can elevate this program with at a later date, but I don't see another tight end on the board, more dynamic than Brock Bowers. And just I think we've seen what he can do at Georgia. Pretty dynamic talent at tight end. Think it'd be a mismatch problem like what would be possible with him in a Phil Longo offense. And I'll address who will get him the ball later.
Definitely would have been better as a second round value. Just throwing that out there.
Well, you won't have the ability to take him there.
Yeah, but you could have.
I'm gonna wait on a quarterback for right now, and my second selection. Again, I want to elevate this program as is. I'm gonna take a Cooper DeJean with my next selection because that's fine because I'm looking at this in the totality of what this guy could bring to a college football defense, and I already know what that looks like. This is a guy who can play the slot. This is a guy who can play on the boundary. I can play him at safety, and he's a dynamic returner. I think all of those things would improve Wisconsin's defense and special teams next season. Him and Hunter Wohler flying around in the same secondary. Fucking get out of here, man. Cooper DeJean instantly makes us a top 15 plus or better defense just by his addition alone. So
I'm with you, Dylan.
2 additions.
As an unofficial draft expert, Cooper DeJean is number 19 on my big board, but I love that he's my number 2 secondary player. I love that pick, and the fact that the special teams is just an added bonus. This guy just has a nose for the ball, nose for the end zone. He's a white cornerback. He's probably going to play safety,
That's
But-
worth a lot. That's worth a lot.
A lot.
I mean, you look at the last couple decades, not a lot of unicorns.
Also,
like
his name's Cooper, so that definitely adds a little bit to it.
I'm just thinking
Well,
about
really,
the multiplicity of a Mike Tressel defense.
Yeah.
With a guy like that who you can just put
You can put
wherever you
anywhere.
want.
Yeah.
I would feel really good about that patrolling somewhere back there.
No,
And so
I-
that's going to be my second selection.
Dylan, he would have been my next pick if I thought he was going to make it back to me. I'd love that pick.
I'm just trying
Who's
to
a
improve
really-
the Wisconsin Badgers as today.
I kind of want to take Jaden Daniels.
It's
Just
kinda
you
your
guys
pick,
can't
so
take a
you
quarter-
pick.
Huh?
I said it's kind of your pick, so you can take whoever you
I
want.
know, but I'm just saying I want to take another quarterback, so you guys can't take a quarterback. But
Go ahead. Go
Uh,
ahead.
I'm going to take Jerzon Newton because I watched that dude torment all of the Big Ten and would have probably had 10 sacks against the Badgers if he didn't have a targeting call. So I'm going to take Jerzon Newton.
A
Think he-
bullshit targeting call for being honest.
Yeah, right.
It was definitely a targeting, but thank God he got a targeting because
Yeah.
he was absolutely wrecking that game.
It was one of those where it's like technically,
Yeah, by the letter of the law. Yeah. but-
Want to say like that game specifically, credit to Braden Lockman for taking his licks and getting up every time because Newton was he was out there.
He was all
tearing
that ass.
he
No
was
did he,
tearing
dude.
that apart.
Yeah,
No.
I don't think we don't have a guy quite like him on the defensive line. So I
No.
think he, like Cooper DeJean, instantly elevates that defense into a
Yeah,
a pretty
and
good
I
one.
mean Newton's an awesome player.
Love that pick.
Late first, probably early second round pick, I'm thinking. But yeah,
Yeah, he was early second round in this draft. So
well, buddy, I'm talking about the actual NFL draft.
oh, okay.
Yeah. But no, I love that pick. Hell of a player. Like you said, just watching him wreck Wisconsin,
Mhm.
like just makes you respect the guy even more. So no, good pick.
Yeah, I'm really hoping he falls to like in real life to number 27 for the Cardinals because I really
You
like.
have to take him.
I think
Yeah.
wherever he lands, I think you feel good about that.
Yeah.
But with my second pick, following up that, I'm glad you took my second highest rated player on the defensive line, third highest on my defensive line. So I guess maybe we don't know ball as much, but I'm gonna take the 13th rated player on Mel Kiper's big board. I'm gonna take Big Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle game wrecker from Texas.
Go right ahead.
We need some big hoss in the middle to anchor that defense, especially if we're going to run a true 3-3-5. We need someone just to eat blockers and be able to rush the passer. So I'm going to take Byron Murphy II from Texas with my second pick.
Murphy.
Are you Googling him?
No, I know exactly who it is.
Okay.
I'm typing the picks down in my notes. Cool.
Don't care. Cool.
Yeah. Give me Dallas Turner,
That's who I was gonna pick next.
That's my
DN, edge rusher, whatever you want to call him, out of Alabama. I think this guy is going to be a day one impact player. And if you want to talk about for the Badgers, what were we lacking last year? Pass rush. This dude, I mean, there's a couple other edge rushers, pass rushers on here who I think you could take, and I might burn one from Ryan here.
mother.
But give me Dallas Turner right there. That's an insane value. He might be the only player, or the only defensive player to go in the top 10 of the draft on Thursday. So I'll take him. I'll take the Alabama pedigree. What do they say? You always leave Alabama with one ring and one surgery. I don't care. The guy can fucking play. So give me Dallas Turner. I feel like that's a no-brainer. And then, my last pick. So I got a couple positions I could go here. There's a quarterback who I don't mind, but I think I'll save that.
You don't have another pick after that.
I know. If we would have had 5 rounds.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is my last pick, but like, not save it, but not take him, I should say. To me, it's between an edge rusher and an offensive lineman.
That's where I'm at too.
Take the offensive lineman.
You're not getting your edge rusher, Jay.
Fuck
He's
that.
getting taken next, so don't worry.
Fuck that. Give me Lyle Latu,
That's
edge rusher from UCLA. I mean, he's the best pure pass rusher in the NFL draft. The only thing that's hurting his draft stock is his injury history, which is huge. The medicals are huge on that. But
he's retired, right?
What's that?
He had some time there where he medically retired.
He did. Yeah. Okay. And then he came back and had 10.5 sacks, 11.5 sacks or something like that.
He's a dope. He was on my list.
Dude, give me a shot at that guy. The Badgers, I mean, if we had any sort of pass rush last year, if we had Dallas Turner and Latu last year, we would have had a top 10 defensive line in the country. So give me Latu. That's where I'm going with my last pick.
Pushing Leon Lowry and John Pius and Daryl Peterson is out the door. Coop just
don't give a fuck.
Fuck them.
Those guys aren't first round picks, Dylan.
You know, it would be an all timer if Ryan drafts Braylon Allen here.
I was talking to my dad about that. He's like, "What are you guys doing on the podcast tonight?" And I told him the couple topics we had and about the draft. He's like, "Are you going to draft Braylon Allen?" I was like, "Absolutely not, Dad. That's against the whole point of the segment."
You should.
Yeah, I mean, right? I would give him a shot. If we were doing a 3-round mock draft of just running backs, then I think you'd probably make my cut. But since we're not, I mean, we'll move on.
So we're on the clock. Who do we got?
I like Pius. I like Lowry. I like Lafalele, Anelu. I like Heiberger. I don't know. I like the edge rushers. I know we didn't necessarily have a lot of production last year, but you're only as good as your front. And, with my second pick, I took Big Byron Murphy up there to be a space monster. I'm going to take another defensive lineman. I'm going to take Jared Verse from Florida State.
Oh, love that pick. He was on my big board. Had a great combine.
Yeah, he's not an edge rusher, but he's a 5 technique outside defensive lineman. I'm thinking if you have him and Byron Murphy and Ernest Willer and Kurt Neal and old buddy 91, I'm blanking on his name right now, Jamel Howard, that is a very good defensive line room. All your corner. I think we can all agree the defensive backs room is much improved with the transfer portal. The linebacker core is insane with Jaheim Thomas and Big Tack. They're only going to be as good as that pass rush. So with 2 of my 3 picks, I had to take down linemen to absolutely just go and eat. And more than likely, Murphy and Verse are both going to probably be both in the top 15 to 20 picks in the draft. And then Drake May out there slinging the pill. I think he'll make them all look better. So I'm sorry you all participated. And I know we're not done yet, but it seems like everybody lost but me. So
you think Murphy is going to go that high?
Oh yeah,
I know. I think he's back end of back 10 of the first round, early second.
He's mocked at 16 right now on ESPN.
Is he?
Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do an over/under bet. We can bet on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jay, who we taking?
I don't know.
Torrey Taylor.
Don't know who that is.
Braylon Allen
for Iowa
punter. He's a field tilter for sure.
I also want.
Wouldn't be a bad pick, actually.
I want to. I was gonna go with a edge rusher also, but I'm gonna go with Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, I mean,
he's incredible, but I had to take him off my board for quitting in the middle of a game.
Yeah, me too, Dylan. That's the only reason he's not on my board.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Talent wise, it's an absolute no-brainer. He's incredible at football, but you couldn't even finish the game. I had to take him off my board. The character concerns were too much for me to risk my job on, but I totally get it. I like what you see on tape enough to probably get
over. Caleb Williams, Malik Neighbors. I think that makes the offense way better. Add on my Jerzon Newton.
Yeah, I think that's very underrated, Jay. I started thinking about it. I'm pretty sure Neighbors, he plays the slot too, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine Phil Longo with somebody like Neighbors, a top 10 pick, and Caleb Williams, what he would do with that slot god? I mean, we love Will Pauling and Tretch, but if you have Neighbors in the slot, who's probably a top 8 pick with Caleb Williams, damn, Jay, I'm impressed.
Yeah, but could you imagine Marvin Harrison Jr. and the top 2 fuck you. And the top 2 edge rushers in the draft? Could you imagine that on this Badger team? God, if only someone had a draft like that.
Coop, how
Sounds
are
like
you gonna like feel bad when you take last in this draft or no?
No, I'm expecting to take last. But Jason, I'm smarter than a lot of the cronies who are voting on the Twitter poll.
They don't know ball. That's all.
No, they don't know ball. They have no idea who fucking Latu, and I'm butchering his name, but they have no idea who Latu is from UCLA. Played at Oregon State, had to retire, take medical red shirts. Like, come on now. I know ball.
So Coop, I think
And I
there
hope
are,
I'm not wrong about Oregon State, but I think that's where he played before.
I knew going into this draft that I was going to address quarterback at some point, but I also knew there was no point in me addressing it early because I already know these guys are incredible college football quarterbacks. So why on earth am I going to take my first pick with that? So thankfully, you guys knocked 2 of those off right away and just burned those draft picks. I thought that was awesome. So thank you, one, for doing that. Coop, rolling with Braden Locke and or TVD. Didn't see that coming into all this.
Yeah, that's wild.
Well, in a 5-rounder, I would have taken a quarterback, but
I hear that. But I'm not taking the quarterback that I would imagine that y'all would anticipate.
Oh, if you take JJ McCarthy,
you're taking JJ because he's on my list.
I'm gonna end the podcast right now.
I'm taking JJ McCarthy.
Fuck yes, Dylan.
You just
Fuck
lost.
yes.
You just lost. You sold.
Well, you see, here's the thing. Maybe like Ryan, enjoy winning expectations. He went 27-1.
Yeah, he also didn't throw a pass in the second half of a football game against real people.
Didn't need to.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, didn't need to.
Yeah, well,
So-
he will on our team. He will.
Yeah.
Very, very well could be the case. I'm incredibly comfortable with the talent level. The piece I put around him, I like our receiving core enough. I added a Brock Bowers, got a Cooper DeJean in the back end to complement Hunter Wohler. Now I'm just elevating the quarterback room. Feel really good about that. I want a winner under center, and hard to do better than the national championship quarterback. So I'm going to go with JJ McCarthy as my Mr. Irrelevant in this draft.
Dylan, he was the number 1 quarterback on my board. And like I said, in a 5-rounder, I thought I could steal him a little later. Maybe I'd take him in the 3rd round. But I absolutely love that pick. The guy's got a hell of an arm. He's a winner. And I know he's white, but sneaky athletic.
100%.
He's athletic, dude. Yeah, he can move. So no, I love that pick.
I'm a big fan of quarterbacks who can run, not necessarily running quarterbacks.
Yeah, I'd rather have Dallas Turner, Latu, and Marvin Harrison Jr. But that was a great pick. Yeah.
My only concern with your draft, Coop, is like I really like Turner and Latu also. But like, remember when we had the death row linebacker court? We had an outstanding elite defense, like top 3 or 4, and still finished 8-4.
Yeah, well, we didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr., did we?
We also didn't have Tyler Van Dyke.
Yeah, Braden Locke. He's your starter.
I hope so. My opinion.
Well, that puts a bow on the draft. Obviously, we know that the Cowboys are going to fuck it up come draft day. I think we're all
absolutely
that. That'll be an absolute delight. But we're all a sucker for it. We don't have to go too in the weeds with this. But who was an NFL draft pick that you would have bet the farm on being incredible, but we're completely wrong on? Because for me, the top of my list will always be Jamarcus Russell. I thought he was gonna be fucking awesome.
He's up there.
I couldn't have been more wrong on that one.
Vince Young's up there.
Love
Darius Hayward Bay. I mean, a lot of Raiders. But
just draft the fast guys.
Yeah, like a lot of Raiders. But like, no, Vince Young, I thought was going to be sick. Steve Slayton, especially after that, like 1 or 2 good years he had with the Texans, I was like, man, this is the best running back in the league. And then he was out of the league in like a year and a half.
And that was a really fast fall for him.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who else.
Ryan or Jay, do you got one that jumps to your mind? One that like
I'm like blanking on all of them right now.
Well, the only one that can kind of come to my mind, and it's probably too easy of a layup, is Johnny Manziel. Just because I thought like that backyard style. I mean, we see it with Kyler now. Kyler's figured it out how to. I mean, he's gotten hurt a couple times, but I was just trying to think. I can't think of anybody that I was like, oh, they're really gonna do well like that. Like I just know when you come from to the men's league, it's such a jump that it's like I usually never expect someone to be.
And I can't think of his name. We traded up for him, number 5, cornerback out of LSU.
Oh, Claiborne.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the Cowboys.
Oh, Clay.
Dude, thought he was going to be fucking God's gift to Earth.
I
Kind of got a
one.
really random one too.
He was not God's gift to Earth. Or Taco Charlton. We cut him after like 2.5 seasons.
My
What do you
random
got,
one is
Jay?
like I remember
I
watching.
figured mine out.
I remember watching like I think it was I don't know if it was his junior year, senior year, whatever year he came out with Josh Rosen in the first game of the season when they went into like 2 or 3 overtimes. Dude was just spitting the pill. Like they came back down like from down like 20 or 30, something ridiculous. The way he threw the football, I was like, this dude is insanely good. And then yeah, the Cardinals got a hold of him.
Well, that's how I felt about watching Zach Wilson at BYU. And then I had to remind
I wanted the Packers to draft Zach
Yeah.
Wilson. Like I was like, just draft him. I didn't think he was going to go second overall, but I was like,
I had to remind myself he plays at BYU, Brandon. Like,
Temper yourself. Remember.
there's a reason. There's a reason. Jimmer Fredette yourself, Brandon.
say what you want, but Zach Wilson's always had his head in the right place. You know, he's always been out there.
Yeah, he's out here fucking moms.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Yeah, his priorities have always been in line. You know, football comes very secondary.
No, I respect that.
He's not very good at that anymore. But he's doing his thing off the field, and mad respect to Zach Wilson.
Yeah, so I figured mine out. So I completely spaced this one off. So remember back when Blaine Gabbert had a run there?
Yep.
I thought Blaine Gabbert was, and when the Cardinals passed on him to draft Patrick Peterson, I'm like, man, we need a fucking court. Well,
you get Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, I was big Blaine.
That's
Gabbert.
tough. Yeah,
big Blaine Gabbert.
Well, that's the thing about quarterbacks is like you can every year you're gonna get attached to like 1 or 2 guys and be like, oh, they're gonna hit. But like realistically, of the 5 guys drafted, like in round one will hit. One will be a serviceable starter who gets a second contract, maybe somewhere else. And one is a guy who's like, he might garner a second contract with the franchise, but they ultimately move on and then 2 flame out.
Does RG3 count? Because I guess that could be one.
No, they fucked him.
No, he hit. He was a hit.
Yeah,
and
they fucked him.
And I think they ruined his career.
Yeah.
Who was
animal?
Who was the D tackle the Packers took out of Tennessee?
Justin Harrell. I don't want to talk about it.
That Nazi, Ted Thompson, and not that video. He's like, Ted Thompson, you're a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, that was an all-time reaction video back before YouTube was the platform it is today. Yeah, Justin Harrell, not a good Packer.
Not good at all. Honestly, the Packers have missed on a lot of first-round picks. But they hit 2 through 5 like no one else's business.
I mean, it's hard to argue. I think they've hit on their fair share of first-round draft picks too. I mean, when they hit big, but they've definitely had some misses. Obviously,
the Cowboys, like we've had so many misses, but like Zach Martin, like he's super cool.
Parsons,
Parsons. I mean, Zeke was dope for like 6 years.
Big fan of Brian Bulaga, Iowa.
I
mean, you can't ask for more than that. That was Sunday Night Football. That's what it's all about.
That's how you know it's Sunday Night Football is when
Carrie Underwood fires it up and Brian Bulaga brings it home.
That's
what Sunday Night Football is all about.
Yeah,
we can never lose that. That's like when we talk about NIL and like the college landscaping changing and like it's still going to be something we watch. That's the NFL like pageantry we can't lose. Give me Carrie Underwood and give me like everyone saying what school they went to so they can say the most obscure thing I've ever heard.
Yes.
Like Jared Allen with voice like
Culinary Academy.
No, what I want,
remember that.
What I want is anyone who ever went to Iowa, like they say their name, and Brian Bulaga is just like Iowa.
Yeah, it should always be Brian Bulaga.
Yeah, like Cooper DeJean, defensive back, and then you hear Brian Bulaga, Iowa.
Some things should never die.
Yeah,
I agree.
Coop, who is your big dog of the week? Final segment here. Hour and 15 minutes. Feel like we're ahead of schedule. What do we got for big dog of the week?
Well, my first
35.
My first big dog of the week is just my draft. I mean, what an absolute board. I put
Shameless
together.
plug.
So if you're going to vote in the poll, I mean, if you know ball, I think you would vote for me. But that's just,
This just
Speaking-
reeks of desperation.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Peddling.
no, it's just,
It's sad that you've come to this, man. You used to be an honorable person, but
Jay, I'm just levels ahead of everyone. I have to explain it to them like I'm 5.
mhm.
If you
like
got to
they're
explain it, then sounds like
Yeah.
you did something wrong
Yeah.
along the way.
Nailed it.
Agreed, Dylan.
Nah, you're wrong, Dylan.
You got the platform. You keep going.
You guys
keep
are all
digging-
wrong.
Keep digging that hole, baby.
I clearly won this draft. Well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to say this. God damn it. If we would have done the quick trip draft like I wanted to, I would have fucking raked, dude. I'm fat as fuck. You don't think I'd dominate that draft? Are you kidding me?
It'll have its time.
There's like 45 items on the hotspot. I know all of them. I have them all ranked. Like, you guys are fucked. You kidding me? We could do a 50-round draft at Quick Trip. I bury you. And right now, we're drafting players from the NFL draft that probably half the listeners don't even know because they don't know ball. I respect all the listeners, but I'm just venting here and trying to defend myself. My draft was kind of a hot mess, but
Do we have an actual big dog of the week?
yeah, we do. Sorry. First big dog of the week. I only have 2 this week. Small litter.
Okay.
First one is, you guys see Jameis Winston this week?
No, but I do know that you are the leading authority on Jameis Winston, and so I am looking
president
forward
of the
to what
fan
you
club.
can say next.
I am. I love Jameis. He was on a fishing boat, and he was
Love that for
giving.
him.
He was like explaining how to fish and trying to explain like about the fish they were catching. He's like, yeah, this right here is like a red stripe herring or whatever. And the person like behind the camera was like, oh, no, it's not. It's like, it's all coming with it. Like every single fact Jameis tried to say, like the person behind the camera was like, no, you're wrong. Like that's not right. And dude, it was like 10 things in a row. And Jameis just kept rolling with the punches out here on this fucking fishing boat. So shout out Jameis. He did steal crab legs, allegedly. But that's my dog, dude. Whatever Jameis doing, I'm riding
with him so bad. Like, we got to get him on the pod.
Oh,
I don't think there would be anybody more fun to talk to.
I think him and I would be best friends.
I think you and him would be best friends.
Like, dude, I would go to church. I would go to black church with him so quick. It wouldn't even be funny, dude.
I think you would fit in better there. I really
Bro,
do.
last time I went to black church, it was with Quentin Penn Joyner. Shout out Quentin. I haven't seen my dog or even talked to him in a long time. But shout out Quentin, dude. That was my boy back in the day. But he used to take me to black church with like him and his family. And after like service and everything, it was at that elementary school in some Prairie Dillon, that newer one.
Yep.
And we'd play basketball after it. And I mean, I could get some buckets back in the day. And I had long hair, and so they'd always call me Steve Nash. I'd be like, "Fuck yeah, dude!" Like, dude, that's how you know I'm invited to the barbecue. And like, "Hey, yo, Steve, pass me the rock, son." It's like, "Fuck yeah, dude!" I'm like 13 years old, thinking I'm fucking hot shit at black church. It was so cool.
Coop, do you know who wasn't at the black church with you?
Who's that?
All of Dylan's draft picks.
Did you draft all whites, Dylan?
Yes.
Oh,
Kinda looking that way.
Brock Bowers, Cooper
Oh
DeJean,
my god.
and JJ
Well, Cooper
McCarthy.
DeJean, let's be fair.
Oh,
If we're doing a racial draft, it's up for debate.
Yeah, but he's still a white.
Allegedly. But my last big dog of the week, I'm sure you guys saw this. Rest in peace, fucking Howie Schwab, dude. Stump the Schwab.
oh yeah.
That was
Excellent show.
literally
Excellent show.
like my favorite show growing up. I'd come home every day. It either been ESPN2 or ESPN. They'd have the reruns on ESPN Classic where
Yep.
they'd play like 7 episodes in a row. Stump the Schwab was the fucking best. Like, I loved him. Loved Stuart Scott. Like, they're back and forth. And it was just cool as being like a young, like middle school, high school kid, like learning about sports that way. And like a show they had, like that show would do numbies right now, and they have nothing like that. I feel like,
Yeah, ESPN got away from all of
but
those.
I feel like
that,
it's
that
'cause
was
they-
the golden era of those kinds of like
Yeah.
they were all unique. All
but
of
there's
them
no
were unique.
like there's no Schwabs out there where it's like, okay, he's so like knowledgeable, but he's also like charming and funny. Like to play that role is very difficult. It's like Guy Fieri, you know. But
that was an awesome, like one of one, like incredibly unique show.
yeah, that's like I said, it's like my favorite show growing up. So RP Howie, you're the big dog of the week, gone way too soon. We'll miss you and bring back Stump the Schwab.
Yeah, it was a great show. I'm with you. I love that show. Like I feel like the young bucks these days don't get all the good shows like Stump the Schwab. That was back when what was the one they had all four of the sports people on and they got points like around the horn
PTI.
or PTI.
Bro, around the horn, we used to play that at the lunch table in middle school.
Yeah, we did all the time. That show was so good in its heyday.
Yeah.
Woody Page with his fucking like little board in the
The
corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Kind
was
of what
good.
Coop is with his with his thing.
you heard it. You heard it here. Coop and Woody Page. They're exactly the same.
Pretty much.
I think we do the same drugs. So
It seems like a perfect jumping off point. At an hour and 21 minutes here, put a bow on episode 37. We'll catch you back here next week and on Wisconsin.